Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're inside again because it's snowing. It is January in Canada. So, we are going to talk a little bit about another chicken breed. Today, I'm going to talk about a breed that you may not have seen at all. They're incredibly rare. So, if you haven't seen them or you haven't even heard of them, that's pretty normal. If you breed them, fantastic. I'm talking about the Brackel or the Brakel. Pronunciations differ a little bit depending on whether you're in Europe or North America. It's the same chicken. You might have heard of its cousin, the Campine. The Campine is more common and is not quite as rare as the Brakel. The Brakel is from Belgium, like the Campine. They're from slightly different regions in Belgium, though. These guys were used by farmers in their region for their eggs. They lay good eggs. They lay a decent amount. Okay, they're not a leghorn, but they do lay a decent amount. And they were used for their eggs right up until the 1960s. When the 1960s hit, farmers in that region started switching to hybrid breeds. That meant that the Brakel didn't really fit anymore, so he became less popular. That's when his decline really started. He is similar to the Campine. So if you've seen a Campine, you would recognize a Brakel, but you would think it was a Campine. They look very, very similar. In fact, the females are almost identical. Really, the only way to tell the females apart is the size. Brakels are a little bit bigger than the Campine. The males, however, you can tell the difference. The male Brakels have cock feathering, which means they feather out like a normal rooster. So they get the rooster tails, they get the saddle feathers, they get the hackle feathers, they get all those things that you normally see in a rooster. The Campine has hen featherings. So the male Campines look more like hens because they don't have all the different types of feathers. So that's one of the ways you could tell the males apart. The females, mostly size. Brakels are bigger by a bit. So you can actually tell if you put two hens side by side, you can go, yep, that one's bigger. You can see it. You don't have to weigh them to figure out which one's bigger. They're just a stockier bird, a larger bird. So you can tell them apart when they're side by side. If they're not side by side, it's real easy to think they're all Campines. They're not. They are distinct breeds from distinct regions in Belgium with very little overlap, surprisingly. Now, the Brakels are extremely rare today. There are only a few breeders left, so you may not even see them in the show ring. They're beautiful birds. They do have conservation status because they're so rare. So if you do breed these guys, breed them. Breed them more because there are not enough of them in the world. They have really long tail feathers. The problem with these long tail feathers is they're also kind of delicate. So if you have Brakels in your coop, you need to have your roosts placed far enough away from your walls that when the roosters turn around and the hens turn around, they don't brush the walls because their tail feathers are actually really delicate and they'll snap off. So if you do want to get these guys, first of all, it'll take you a while to find them, but if you do want to get them, you do want your roosts far enough away from the wall that they don't damage their tail feathers. There are two distinct colors. There are a gold and a silver. The gold is more common. Again, this is not a common breed, so when I say more common, it's only by a little bit. The silver is less common because they take a little more work. The silver birds, you have to keep them out of the sun. They need shaded coops, they need a shaded run because they'll stand in the sun and their feathers will discolor. Okay, they discolor really fast. They're not the only silver bird to do that, but they do it fast. So if you have silver Brakels, you do need to keep them out of the sun. They do lay a decent amount of eggs, like I mentioned. About 180 to 200. They're a decent sized white egg, so they're not a horrible layer. I know they're not a leghorn, but if you do have these guys, they are good for their eggs. And their eggs are quite creamy. They're a nice egg. It's just they were replaced with hybrids that lay more eggs in their region, so that's why there's not very many of them. Um, if you are breeding them, you want to breed in sufficient numbers because getting a good quality rooster is actually tricky. Those tail feathers need the correct barring in order for them to be showable, even if they are showable in your area. So that correct barring, it is difficult if you don't already have birds that have perfect. So if you do have slightly less perfect Brakels, you do need to breed them a lot in order to get good representations of the breed. So if you are breeding these guys, breed them a lot if you can. Hatch all the eggs you can. They're not very common, and it's difficult to get a really good quality Brakel. So that's about it for these guys. Other than that, they're decently friendly. Okay, they're not a silky, but they are friendly enough to have on your farm if that's what you're interested in. Again, good luck finding them. But that's about it for us here on the farm today, and we will see you tomorrow.